Right. My name is David Landini and I'm here today with Chris Brooks. Chris is the chairman of the Berwick Irrigators Council, a irrigator group with about approximately 900 members. Chris is also the chairman of the Southern Riverina Irrigators Group, which has approximately 1,800 farmer irrigator members. SRI, Southern Riverina Irrigators, is composed of the West Berwick, Warcool, Deniliquin, Deniliquin, and of course Chris's Berwick Irrigators Council. Good afternoon, Chris.
Good afternoon, David.
Chris, water is a big issue at the moment. It always has been, but at the moment it's a particularly big issue. And I'd like to just ask you, Chris, what is the problem with water?
Well, it's contentious, you know. I suppose a lot of people have differing opinions, but the long and the short of it is we have no allocation in this region, and you know there has been a lot of conjecture as to why that has happened, but we've been able to identify by sifting back through accurate records and data that our water has basically been traded down the river. Right. Since the implementation of the Murray-Darling Basin Plan, it is unequivocal, just a redistribution of our water. The dams are on our doorstep, and when they used to fill with the winter rains and snowfall, if they're 80% full, we would get an 80% allocation. Now, since the implementation of the Murray-Darling Basin Plan, which come about from the 2007 Water Act, there's been that water has the reliability of that allocation has just been shifted down the river.
Right.
And what's more annoying for me is that it's been bad management. You know, you've put a government authority in place. They have an absolute monopoly authority to manage this water. They had a basin plan and a water act to follow, and they haven't. You know, there are so many things they're doing wrong, with spilling the water through the choke, running the water out the end through the seas, allowing too much extraction in the north, which is, you know, reduced the flows from the Darling, and then they want the Murray to pick it up. And subsequently, you know, the dam last year 90% full, this year 50% full. I know politicians tell me they can't make it rain, but we've had a zero allocation in both those years, and that has a massive impact on this region. You know, you've got really good properties here that are set up with infrastructure behind them to produce, to be reliable producers. You know, you've got such a good irrigation system. You've got all of the value adding, you know, be it grapes or Uncle Toby's or feedlots or rice mills or dairies that are built all through this area, because the farmers here were reliable suppliers, because they had irrigation available to grow this. You turned the water off last year. We were able to commission an economist to do some work and identify a loss to this region, and I'm talking about the Murray Irrigation District from Mulwala to Moolameen. It reduced income to this region by $5.6 billion.
Per annum, every year?
That was last year.
$5.6 billion.
Now, I just want to extrapolate that and put it into perspective for people, because the average farmer like myself would have lost $1 million, no problem. Now, in farming, that happens. You know, we're subject to frosts, and we're subject to floods, and we're subject to droughts when it's a drought. Having been subject to bureaucrat, that's not that acceptable. But in the area south of us in the Goulburn Valley, it's a bigger water area, and they're actually probably a higher value producer with all of their fruits and produce. And the same applies to the area to the north of us in the Murrumbidgee. Bigger volume of water, higher input, higher return produce, cotton, grapes, all these things. I would estimate conservatively that they would be double our impact. So if you've got 10 billion either side of you, you're talking $25 billion in this region being negatively impacted by no water or a reduced flow of water. That's 1.5% of Australia's GDP. We're running at 1.5% at the moment. So bottom line, if you turn the tap on, you're going to double Australia's output.
And that, of course, not only affects farmers, Chris, that flows right through to all the service providers that provide contract work, fuel,
road
whatever.
networks, schools, restaurants, councils, the entire community.
That flows right through the whole economy, and to be quite frank, if you drive through any of the towns in the southern Riverina, and that I forgot to mention, we're in the Deniliquin R.S.L at the moment. If you drive through Deniliquin, Finley, Berrigan, Warcool, Moolameen, all these towns have a very same appearance about them, one of neglect and empty shop fronts and of deterioration, and the numbers that Chris has just given are massive, and they would be the main cause of the deterioration in this area by a long way.
Well, as you know, David, you live here. It's not just the empty wallets that are causing the problem. I mean, it's the anxiety and the mental health issues that are affecting everybody that's trying to operate in this economy. You know, with no income, losing capacity to borrow funds, losing confidence in getting water to finish crops.
Yeah.
And all of the attached businesses losing income and cash flow. It has an effect. It has an effect on people's health, and it has an effect on family lives.
And just on that, Chris, I deal with farmers all the time in my own private business, and I've spoken to a number of farmers, and they have very genuinely expressed to me that this is a disaster, and they don't. I don't want to say how they expressed it because it was that serious that I actually don't want to repeat it. It's an extremely serious situation, and this is not a thing that should be done to be quite frank, should be done to our fellow Australians.
Absolutely.
A slight digression, but the water is allocated on a political basis. It's a political decision that allocates water, and to have the rivers currently, now Chris, you have the figures of the amount of water going down the Murray River and out to sea in South Australia, which we'll come to a bit later, but to have that water in the rivers and flowing out to sea but not available for farmers, and to place them deliberately into this dire situation is, to me, beyond description.
Oh, it's despicable. It is despicable, David. Nothing short.
Yeah.
And like you say, it's politically motivated, and that's what drives me to happily get involved in campaigns to rid the area of the Nationals who were forcing this policy on us. That was disadvantaging this region and advantaging other regions that were National Party seats.
Yeah, and just probably the most extreme example of the allocation of water and so forth, the Millawa Forest at Mathara was only recently being flooded. The Murray River actually overflows its banks because they can't get enough water down the river, and apparently I think they use the irrigation system as well to flow water around the choke in the Murray River there as well.
Yeah.
There's that much water going out down the river out to sea, but none available for farmers. I think that's, as you said, Chris, I'll just repeat, despicable.
It is despicable, but
yeah.
So many misleading factors, David, that make me angry, and that is that the environment own this water, and they're entitled to do the irrigation of environment to sustain the environment and all of these nice words, but the cold hard facts are these people are taking a massive volume, and I'm talking about these people that are operating the rivers, are taking a massive volume of water from this area downstream to irrigate almond farms and new unregulated developments outside of this existing irrigation area. Yep. They're sending massive volumes out to sea, and it's all under the pretense of for the environmental flows. And and I know, you can go down to the Barmah Forest, you can go to the Millawa, wherever you like to go along the river. The insane high level of the Murray River is creating untold damage. Now, that we've got reports, and I'm not an ecologist or an environmentalist by any stretch of the imagination, I have run a farm for a long, long time and not killed any trees or those types of things, but these people, the reports are telling me that a forest, a red gum forest, needs to be inundated with water once in 10 years. It'll survive twice in 10 years, so that's once in 5 years, but it will not survive being underwater indefinitely. And since the Murray-Darling Basin Authority took control of the river, the Barmah Forest, for example, has been underwater up to 6 months of the year for 7 out of the last 8 years.
Right.
Now, I've been down there since I was a kid, riding motorbikes and horses and all those types of things. The death and destruction in the trees and the deterioration in the health of that forest is a disgrace.
It is, Chris, and just I will support that. I drove into the middle of forest there a month or so ago, and my wife and I both commented on the amount of sick, near dead juvenile trees.
Yep.
And we couldn't understand why that was, but apparently it is because of the excessive flooding.
Yep.
The environmental flows and flooding are actually killing the juvenile red gums.
Yep. Well, and the senior ones now.
And just drive down there and have a look at them.
Yep.
But Chris, we'll just go on. So there are massive problems with water, but Chris, I'll just go on to potential solutions and possible solutions. And you've had a lot to do with other irrigators on a series of solutions. And Chris, to begin with, there was a big rally in Albury back, I'm not sure when that was, about in March, I think. I'm not exactly sure what month it was.
Before the election?
Before the federal election.
Yep.
There was the rally in March, and then a huge rally in Tocumwal.
Yep.
And then there's another rally planned in Canberra on the, I think, the 3rd and 4th of December.
Yes.
At Parliament House Course.
Well, we just like to keep the people informed, and I mean, it's very easy to write newsletters and say, or write articles in the paper to say that we're doing this or we're doing that, and I mean, we do use the media to the best of our advantage to get the message to politicians. We like to keep our membership informed as to what we're doing, and you can do both of those things with a good rally. You know, in the case of Tocumwal, for example, was the last one we had. 4,000 people come out on the banks of the river there. A lot of politicians there, a lot of media. It makes a good spectacle. Yep. People get it off their chest.
Yep.
They get to hear what's going on.
Yep.
And that's a pretty powerful message. Now, John Barilaro and Melinda Pavey were on the phone and had us in Sydney the next week.
Right.
And they want to talk about solutions. They want to stop all this chanting and marching and screaming abuse and throwing effigies of their ministers into the river and those types of things. So they really know that good, hard-working, conservative farmers who are busy as hell, especially this time of year, when they take the trouble to take time off and get together on the banks of the Murray for half a day, they know they've got a problem.
It's a very serious issue, and Chris, 4,000 people, that would be, if not the biggest rally or protest meeting in the countryside. I think it actually is. It would have to be, if not the biggest, certainly up there. And that just shows how concerned people are about this issue.
Yep, true.
And Chris, now you've also got some legal action. Some irrigators have taken the MDBA to court for damages caused by mismanagement or alleged mismanagement of the basin plant?
In the last 12 months, we've had the ability to access a lot of information, as I say, about water flows and management decisions. And when you actually look at the evidence and it's accurate data, it paints a pretty dismal picture about the performance of and the decisions made and the policy of MDBA, New South Wales Water, National Party, however far up the tree you want to go.
Yeah.
Long and short of it, when we look at the data that we're seeing, we are saying, you cannot do this to us. And we looked at various legal options, and the very simple one was a common law issue where the judge has to ask 3 questions. Did you have any right to water? Absolutely. Yeah. We all own water allocations. Did anything they do affect those water deliveries? Absolutely. They wasted it and spilt it through the forest
Yep.
causing environmental damage,
Yep.
sending it down the river under dilution flows, sending it, out to sea, all of these things. Did that cause us any pain or damage? Absolutely. In excess of $1,000 a meg, multiplied by the amount of megs that represent the people that signed up. Here's the bill. I'm saying we should have had a 75%, 90% allocation, whatever it is. There are 750 growers that have signed up. $1,000 a meg, 750 million.
Yep.
That case has been lodged in New South Wales Supreme Court. The concern, of course, was what was this going to cost, how long this was going to cost. We went out and found an external funder, and this guy's fronted up the dough. And it's a very lengthy document that we had to list with the court as well, which has taken some time to negotiate the terms of that document. But the long story short is we have an external litigation funder who is putting up the money to fight the case, and if we win the case, which we expect to do,
And he obviously expects.
he is entitled to 25%
Yeah.
of the payout.
Yeah.
Now, he had a lot of barristers do a lot of work for a long time.
Yeah.
It was about a 6 weeks process, and he spent a lot of his own money to do that. And he's more than comfortable with the data that we provided him, with the source of that data, which is mainly MDBA websites. They've clarified the rulings of the Act and the operating objectives of the MDBA. And they're comfortable that they're on the winning side. So, this is all set, lodged, ready to go next month in Sydney Court.
That's very interesting, Chris. And the other advantage of a legal action is that documents can be subpoenaed and gathered, and you can't be brushed off and fobbed off by anyone that may want to do that.
Well, that's been the problem.
When you go into the legal system, there is a legal requirement for the MDBA, for example, to provide documents accurately, in full and on time.
Yeah, exactly.
So
there is no arbitration process. We argue with them now that what they're doing is wrong, and they shouldn't be doing that, and they don't take any notice. We go to our local minister, Susan Lay, and try and make the same representation. Many of our membership go to various consultation processes with
Yeah.
MDBA, New South Wales Water, to no avail.
Yeah.
Now, that's the frustration, and we've had no option but to take this to court. And in a court of law, you've got an independent judge, and you have to front up with the evidence.
Yeah.
And this guy is going to rule who was wrong and who was right. We win this court case, these blokes have to comply with the natural constraints in the Murray River, like the choke. It's going to make a lot of water available to us up in the dams, and we might just be able to go back to farming again.
Yep, I think it'll certainly make a lot of people pay a lot more attention to how things should be run according to the rules and so forth.
Hopefully the MDBA as well.
Well, yep. And just one more thing, Chris. South Australia is a very big part of this issue. There are the lower lakes in South Australia, Lakes Alexandrina and Albert.
Yep.
They hold I think it's 1,600 gigalitres of water in those lakes. They also evaporate 1 million megalitres a year on average, which is a huge waste of water via evaporation. And at the moment, I think there's 4 gates open where there's so many megalitres just flowing out to sea right now, while farmers here, for the second year in a row, are on 0% allocation. And not only in this area here, but also the Murrumbidgee irrigation area there. I think they've had a slightly higher allocation, but
Still very small.
but very, very minimal as well.
Yep.
While water's flowing out to sea in South Australia.
Yep.
Now, I know water is a very, very sensitive subject in South Australia. Sometimes I wonder, personally, I wonder about the mental attitude of South Australians. But Chris, can you give us your opinion on the lakes in South Australia?
Likewise, I'm seriously concerned about the mental attitudes of people in South Australia. I think it's pretty selfish and stupid to be expecting 4 million megalitres of fresh water to be supplied down there to fill the fake lakes, that are obviously and has been proven by the most legitimate science possible and peer reviewed by CSIRO scientists that show that the lakes have been saltwater for 7,000 years. Now, for us to supply 4,000 megalitres, 4,000 gigalitres, that's 4 million megalitres of water.
Yep.
This whole region in Mulwala to Moolameen, for 750,000 acres here, only needs 800,000 megs. That's our 100% allocation.
Right. Yep.
So it's 5 times.
Yep.
5 times what we require here to be fully productive, going down there to be wasted in evaporation or run out to sea.
Yep. And to maintain those lakes as freshwater lakes, when naturally, as has been proven by Professor Gell from Federation University in Ballarat only recently, that no, historically they're not freshwater lakes. They have always been a saline estuarine estuary of the Murray River into the sea.
Now, with some engineering issues, and I mean, they built one of these locks at Paracuta for $200 million. That included channels and things through the forest.
Yep.
But let's say a $200 million lock zero down there.
At say Wellington?
Say at Wellington, where you've got fresh water to there, so there's fresh water pumped from there to Adelaide.
Yep.
And if the barrages were automated to allow the salt water to come in at high tide,
yep.
and close so it doesn't run out at low tide, so it maintains the lakes in a estuary situation where you've got all that beautiful ocean water free and available from the Southern Ocean to come fill their lakes that they want so badly. And any time that there is surplus flood water available coming down to run in there to run out to the mouth. That's what happens in every other river in the world. It runs out into the ocean. When it's not running, the ocean actually puts up a sand barrier from the waves to seal it up.
Yep.
That's what happens to every other river in the world.
Yes, that's right. And the other thing about the Lake Alexandrina, when it's maintained as a freshwater lake, it's also a haven for noxious European carp. And I don't really want to, I won't mention the company's name, but there's a major fertiliser company that specialises in European carp as fertiliser. They get all their carp out of Lake Alexandrina. Now, European carp are a noxious fish, and that is the best breeding ground of European carp in the whole Murray-Darling Basin. And to maintain that fake lake, sorry Chris,
You're right. You're welcome.
to maintain that lake as a freshwater system that is a haven for noxious European carp, contrary to the natural estuarine system, that is a wonder. That's a wonder that actually happens. So I can't put it in any other way.
Yeah. No, well, the dams they talked about building recently to supply more water, I think the most economic of them, if you just took the value of the dam by the volume of the water, I think the cheapest one was $48,000 per megalitre. If you build a $200 million Loch Zero in South Australia.
At Wellington.
Right
before where the Murray flows into Lake Alexandrina.
And that frees up 4 million megs. That is $50 a meg. And I don't know anyone on this river, from top to bottom, that couldn't grow something productive for $50 a meg.
Yep.
No more $600 a meg.
Yep.
No more zero allocation.
Yep.
Stroke of a pen. That simple. If only you can get the politicians to get the will and get the facts and get off their lazy butts and understand and know it. Because if they're relying on their lazy lieutenants like Susan Lay and David Littleproud to give them the absolute facts and the truth, they'll never ever get the full story.
Yep. Well, Chris, I just thank you very much, and I'll also add that Chris, this is a huge job that Chris has undertaken. There are other, Chris has his own lieutenants who have also taken on a massive amount of work, and the vast majority of it is on a voluntary basis. So, Chris, I want to commend you and your lieutenants.
Thanks, man.
That on the job that you do, it is so important not only to farmers but also to the whole people involved in the economic system in the Murray irrigation area and also the Murrumbidgee irrigation area. So thanks very much, Chris.
No, thank you. Much appreciated. And there is an army of people that do this. I just get to be the spokesman because I have the head for radio, but there are a lot of people behind the scenes that work tirelessly, you know, huge volumes of hours to make this fight possible. And we think we're getting traction, and we're pretty comfortable that, you know, common sense is going to prevail. But the one thing I want to get out there is it's a numbers game. So don't ever give up, don't ever go away. That's what they want you to do. And when we have these meetings and these rallies, we really need numbers there to stand up and be counted. And we've got a rally coming up in Canberra on the 2nd of December, and we want all of you there. You don't have to do anything, you don't have to say anything. Welcome to chant and toot and wave and whatever you want, but numbers will count when it comes to getting politicians' attention, and we've got their attention.
Righto, Chris. Thanks very much.
Good on you, Dave. Thank you.